Yeah, I feel like it's a bargain right now. What's going on YouTube? Taylor Prentice back here with another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about some things that are going on in the stock market right now, which is the third week of April 2022. We're going into that fourth week, so I'm going to recap some of the things that happened this past week. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and get right on into it. Starting with Netflix. If you guys haven't heard, Netflix is having a really bad week. The shares were down like 37%. The stock took a beating, and that was just on bad earnings. So Netflix is actually losing subscribers, which is not something that you want from a growth company. And I think typically people will think of Netflix as a pretty high growth company. So this is pretty scary news for them. I'm pretty sure just all the competition is just eating away at their subscribers. And yeah, I think they were once like that big powerhouse when they were like kind of the only brand doing what they were doing, but now there's just so much competition. And typically when I think of watching shows, Netflix is actually one of the last options for me, and I don't think I'm the only one who thinks like that. Kind of seems like the numbers are proving me right. This was the first time that Netflix had ever lost subscribers over like a amount of time like this. So yeah, definitely bad news for them. And it says down here they're actually going to try and implement something to like crack down on people sharing their passwords, so people actually have to pay for their account. I'm on my parents, so I don't have to pay for it. And yeah, I don't really know like that many people who actually pay for Netflix accounts, but I know pretty much everyone has a Netflix account, so maybe this will be able to get them some more money. Definitely good to chase that money that's out there, I think, because I do think it's definitely a problem that they have as a company, is just so many people share passwords. Another thing that Netflix is doing is exploring ad-supported packages, so this will probably help them retain some subscribers who are like on the borderline of it just costs too much, but I still like want to watch Netflix. But I think this will be good for them. I'm not sure how effective it'll be. Obviously places like Hulu already do this. I think it'll definitely help them keep some subscribers, but I don't think this is going to be like their saving grace, to be honest. I do think they're in a pretty tough situation, and I don't really see it getting much brighter. So yeah, it's definitely a stock that I'm not interested in buying. If it got down to like super cheap prices, I probably still wouldn't even be interested. Doesn't really matter what the valuation is on it for me. But at the same time, I don't see them like just going away. So I don't know, my opinion on that is kind of just stay away. But let me know down below what you guys think is going to happen with Netflix. Do you think they'll be bought by somebody, which seems kind of far-fetched, or do you think they'll just power through, or do you think these like ads will save their business model? Let me know down below what you guys think is going to happen. Pretty much, I think it's kind of hard to see what is going to go on for them in the next couple of years. And then moving on, we've got Farfetch, which is a stock that I personally own. It's a stock I've just now kind of been adding to my portfolio. It's been really beaten up since we've had like all the big drops recently with the whole like Ukraine situation and like the Fed raising rates and all that. So it is one of the stocks out there that I think is one of the best deals right now. They're a pretty high growth company, and they're known for their like luxury goods, especially like clothing is the main thing. They sell like very limited like home decor stuff, but they're adding beauty products, which is going to be huge. I know there's like a huge beauty market out there, so I think this is going to be really big for them, and I think they'll do really well because they sell like the highest end stuff in pretty much every item that they sell. So I bet their margins will be pretty good. I think Farfetch is actually going to start making some of their own products, or like acquiring companies. So if you don't know, Farfetch owns companies like Off-White. Even though like Off-White was started by Virgil, Farfetch technically owns them. But it'll be interesting to see what they acquire. It says right here, earlier this year they announced the acquisition of Violet Grey, Ami Cole, and Augustinus Bader, which obviously I'm not really into beauty products, but I know they make money, so I think this is going to be great for Farfetch. And yeah, as their price just continues to drop, I think it's at like $12 a share. I'm just kind of adding as viciously as I can. I see this brand doing really well over the next coming years. And as far as luxury retailers go, I think they're in a really good position, and a really unique position. So I think these next coming years, it'll definitely prove that they're a beast. And obviously the lady who wrote this is like a big fan of Farfetch. She said, "I'll now be shopping at Farfetch for my clothes and beauty products." It goes on to say, it might be your go-to retailer for a new designer bag or dress, but I know my cart fills up when I pursue the site. So that's good news to be hearing from somebody. And then moving on, we've got more bad news. So Corsair is another stock that I own. Financial Education Jeremy actually has a pretty in-depth video going over it. He brings to light more stuff that I'm going to be able to in this video, and yeah, you should definitely go watch it if you're interested in Corsair or are a Corsair shareholder. But with that being said, they pretty much just announced before their earnings call that things are not so great for this first quarter of 2022, which they kind of expected, but it was a little worse than they had expected even. So comping to like 2021 quarter one, they realized that they probably weren't gonna have as many sales as they did during 2021, just because stimulus checks and all that were going on and inflation's kind of gone crazy. So they kind of expected this, but they went ahead and said before their earnings call that things just weren't too great, and the share price dropped to a 52-week low. It was down to $15.71. So this is another one that I'm going to be adding pretty aggressively. I think long term, Corsair is still in a great position. They still own like Scuff and Elgato, which I think are pretty much powerhouse brands in the gaming industry. So I think as we get into like Q3 and Q4 this year, I think they'll start to do a little bit better. Hopefully inflation kind of milds out throughout the year and consumer spending gets back to normal. That's kind of like one of the big things that Jeremy talks about in his video, is just how this is kind of indicative for the whole market of how consumers might not be spending as much, which he brings up a good point is not only are consumers not spending as much, so brands aren't advertising as much. So like Facebook might not report very good earnings. That's another company that I hold, Meta, whatever. So yeah, just I'm looking forward, or maybe not looking forward, to seeing how well Facebook's ads have done over the first quarter, because if consumer spending is dropping, so are people's spending on ads, because you don't want to just be throwing a bunch of money out there when you're not getting anything in return. So yeah, that's something to watch out for if you have a company that sells a lot of ads, or like Google or something like that. Just something to keep in your mind. And yeah, you should definitely go watch that video if you have any interest in Corsair. He actually talks about the like whole market a decent amount in there too, so I will have that video linked down below. And lastly, we've got Tesla. So Tesla actually had some really good news for a change in the market. It seems like everyone's earnings have kind of been terrible, but Tesla did really well. They actually had their most profitable quarter ever, making $3.3 billion, which is pretty phenomenal. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this year goes for them. This just boosted them up even more, and yeah, I think it's just going to continue to be a beast. I'm actually not a Tesla shareholder. It's kind of been one of those stocks where I'm like, it's always too expensive, but at the same time, I don't see them losing market share. I think they're just going to continue to grow and gain more market share. And the biggest thing really for them is they've got so many of these gigafactories, and you got to think in places like China where they have really strict COVID protocol, that's really slowed down the production of Teslas because some of those gigafactories are there. But he's just got the infrastructure that old car companies don't have, and none of like the EV competition is even close to. So yeah, I think Tesla's going to continue to be a beast, and I will probably, I don't know if I'll ever buy shares, because I've been saying I'll buy shares forever, like ever since I started investing, and I never have. So yeah, I'm not a Tesla shareholder. It's actually a stock that I've always like been interested in and kind of wanted to buy, and my thoughts on it are really bullish, but I've just always thought it was overpriced, and I don't know, I continue to be proven wrong. The PE ratio is just nuts on it. Just, yeah, I don't know, the fundamentals of the business kind of scare me away from it, but at the same time, like I just said earlier, I think it is pretty much like the only one in their class, and I don't really see anyone catching up to them anytime soon. As far as my portfolio goes, I am getting beaten, man. I'm having a rough time out here, but I'm pretty much just aggressively adding shares of all the companies that I hold, especially Corsair. While it's like super beat up, I might wait a little until earnings just to see, like, I don't know how much more bad news can get priced into it. I feel like it's like pretty low. It's yeah, I feel like it's a bargain right now. I also feel like Farfetch is a bargain, so I'm gonna be adding to it pretty heavily. It's one of my more exciting positions, I think. Earlier in the year it was at like $47, so if it has like any bounce back, I will be making a good amount of money. So, and it's a company that I believe in long term too, but I think short term it has a lot of promise to kind of be one of the front runners for my portfolio, because it was just battered. And Nordstrom has actually been holding up pretty well through all this. But yeah, it's been an interesting earnings season. It'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers Apple does. Hopefully they do good numbers. The stock market really needs it, it seems like. And yeah, Facebook, I'm not the most hopeful for them this quarter, so maybe that stock is just going to keep getting beat up. It was like at $185 the other day. It and Corsair were just tanking along with the rest of my portfolio. But long term, I think both of these positions will be more than okay. I think Corsair has been dealing with like a lot of like chip issues and shortages, and then once they got out of that whole situation, kind of just into super high inflation and low consumer spending. So yeah, over time, I think these companies will do really well. And I think Corsair has solidified itself as a pretty well-known name in the gaming industry. And I think Farfetch is pretty well-known in the luxury industry. So yeah, those are two positions that I'm adding pretty aggressively right now. Let me know down below what you guys are doing, because I'm always interested to hear what people are buying and why they're buying it. I always like to hear people's bullish thesis on random stocks, especially if it's like something that I kind of have an interest in. Farfetch like is a brand that I've bought stuff from, so that's kind of how I figured out about them. Corsair is another brand that I've kind of always been familiar with, and Elgato and all that. So I typically buy brands that I buy like products from. It just like kind of so happens to be that way, and it just helps me pay attention to those companies, because I'm kind of like paying attention to them regardless of if I'm like studying stocks or whatever, just staying on my grind. But yeah, so it just makes it easier. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it to this point, and if you could hit that like and subscribe button, that would be awesome, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.